good morning and welcome to Yoga for Absolute Beginners. We're going to start our yoga class today lying down on our back. So if this is your first experience with yoga, hopefully you've done some lying down. That's not going to be too big a problem. Now, I have a couple of thoughts for you. If you would like to have your head supported by something, you can use a blanket or a little pillow that you might have lying around. You can also do this whole practice today without any props whatsoever. But if you have some things that are fluffy and soft, they can make it a little nicer. So if you'd like, you can create a little pillow for yourself. And then we're going to lie down on the floor. Okay, so this is the first possibility for a leg position. And you put the foot far enough out that you feel a little bit of relaxation in your hips and your low back has a neutral kind of sense to it. It doesn't feel like it's arching, it doesn't feel like it's scooping, it feels pretty normal, right? Same as you might feel when you're standing up. So for folks with tight hip flexors, the hip flexor lives right here at the front of the hip. It goes up a little higher up the spine, but we'll consider that most of the sensation happens here in the pelvis and at the top of the thigh. This is really useful. Okay, so when you stretch your legs all the way out straight, which is the second option, it feels like it pulls the front of the pelvis down and your low back arches more than it should, then you can go back to that first position. If this position allows your pelvis doesn't move, then this can be useful. So pick one of the two, and then you're going to let your arm just kind of like, where does it want to land away from your shoulder? If it feels a little vulnerable, you can bend at the elbow and rest your palms on the bottom of your ribs. Okay? So pick one of those positions for your legs and one position for your arms. Now we're going to spend a little bit of time concentrating on creating a deep and rhythmic breath, nice and smooth. So we're going to breathe as deep toward the navel as possible, and then you're just going to let the breath fall out or release evenly. See if you can allow the lower part of the belly, like between the rib cage and the navel, to really move as you're inhaling. Softly return as you exhale. Don't breathe too forcefully. Allow the breath to be soft and smooth and even. For just enough work to get some movement in the navel. So the diaphragm can use its full capacity to, fill up the lungs. And then just enough softness that it doesn't become a strain. Notice if there are any other muscles that are trying to help you. Like, are there little wrinkles across your forehead? Is your jaw tightened? See if you can relax the muscles that you don't need for breathing. We're going to do 2 more breaths like this. Now Now allow yourself for the rest of our practice to breathe in a way that feels natural to you. If you can breathe a little bit more on the deeper, smooth, and rhythmic side, do that. If you lose track of that and you find yourself aware of it again, come back to that deeper, a little smoother and rhythmic breath. But otherwise, allow your breath to mostly just manage, right? If you catch yourself holding your breath, definitely return to that deep, smooth, rhythmic breath. Now, we're going to all bring our legs to this position where the feet are resting on the floor. You're going to take your hands behind your head. Now, we're going to try to create a situation where we're using the abdominal muscles to lift the body and not the neck muscles. In order to do that, you're going to press your head back into your hands. Take a nice big breath, and then as you exhale, you're going to draw the navel in and curl yourself up. So often we'll pull with the neck. So you're going to press your head backwards and try to work just these upper abdominals and then come back down. Okay, so we're going to inhale, exhale, curl up, inhale, back down. Exhale, curl up. See if you can feel yourself isolating that movement right in those muscles. Curl up. Come on back down. Keeping your head pressing into your hands. 2 more. All right, leave your head there on the floor. And instead now we're going to take one of our legs and move it. So you're going to lift your right toes. And this can be a little bit tricky. So if you need to lift your foot just a notch, you can. We're going to slide this leg all the way out to straight. We're going to try to feel the front part of this hip all the way up and see, as you stretch your foot out, can you feel that, that area of the body stretching? And then just bring the leg back into place, other leg, toes up. Slide that foot as best you can out. A little bit of a lift is okay. Once you get your leg out straight, rest it on the floor and stretch through the front of your hip. So bring the leg back. You might have to jump over the edge of your mat. Slide your foot out. Stretch over the whole front part of that hip. How far into your body can you feel that? Can you feel it all the way up near your spine? Is it just at the front of the hip? Do you not feel it at all? That's legit as well. Just stretching out the front part of the leg there. We're going to do one more on each side. Toes up. Stretch out. Oh, see if you can notice that area right there at the front of the hip. And any other areas it might tug on. It's opposite side. Alright, so we're going to combine these 2 movements, right on? So this is where things get a little more challenging, is keeping all of this together as we do it. So hands behind the head, toes up. You're going to stretch that leg all the way out, and then we're going to bring the knee in and curl up toward it. Again, keeping your head pressing into your hands. Glide that leg out, stretch the front of your hip. Bring the knee in, curl up toward it. And then one more time, we're going to glide that leg out. Bring the knee in, curl up toward it. Okay, hands rest for just a moment. Let your arms relax. We're going to stretch that leg out one more time. You're going to turn the toes to the right and then to the left. And as you feel this movement in your leg, can you feel how it shifts at the hip? So the toes going out to the right, if it's your right leg, that's external rotation. Toes going inward towards the left, that's internal rotation. Just notice that movement there at your hip, okay? Then we're going to bring that leg back to the opposite side. So we're going to glide the leg out, let it stretch the front of the hip, and then bring the knee in and curl up. Foot to the ground or just above it, glide it out, stretch the front of your left hip. Bring that knee in. One more like that, glide it out, stretch the front of that hip, bring the knee in. And then we're going to let your head rest. You can even let go of it with your hands at this point. And let that left leg now reach all the way out, and we're going to just rotate that to the external rotation outside and then to the inside internal rotation. Try to feel that movement of your whole leg as a unit. Notice how it changes the way the hip feels as you move your leg. All right, so we're gonna bring it back in. We're gonna take the right leg and hug it. Give yourself a moment to just hold on to that leg. Now, some of us will find it's tricky to hold on to the leg. You can hold on to just the knee, or you can just allow the leg to come as close to you as possible. That's all of it is fine. So wherever is going to work best for you, if you can hold on to it and it feels okay to do so, hold on. We're going to spin the right foot in circles. So you're going to make the ankle joint do some work. You're going to see if you can get your foot to move the largest possible circle, whatever range of motion your ankle, and then you'll find that the lower leg bones move a bit as well. Go the other direction. See what's the biggest circle you can create with your ankle joint at this point. And then point and flex. So you're going to point the foot so the top of the foot stretches. As you flex back, you might feel that in your calf muscles or the sole of your foot. Point the toes, flex it back. Do 2 more like that. All right, so now what we're going to do is take this ankle and put it over the thigh on the other leg. Now for some of us, we're going to automatically feel a stretch in this outer part of the hip. So we've externally rotated, we've moved the thigh bone so that it points out. And we've also given this area of the body that's responsible for that movement a little bit of a stretch. So if you feel something in this kind of outer hip, glute area, then you're done. You can stay right there. If you don't feel anything, you can try lifting the legs and bringing them in toward you and even reaching through to hold on to that leg. So finding the moment where you feel that stretch is what we're after. And so we're going to hold this for a few moments, just breathing nice and deep. And as you exhale, let your body relax a little bit. Sometimes when we stretch an area that's very sensitive, you'll find extra muscles happening, like your forehead will crinkle up or your jaw will tighten. So we're going to try to let go of those extra places and just focus on the one area. And then let the breath help the rest of us stay a little more relaxed. Do you need to adjust your head or your neck to keep your body relaxed? Try to notice if it gets a little softer, a little easier to hold the pose as we take breaths. I'm going to try to hold it for 2 more. Okay, so with your exhale, if your foot is not resting on the floor, go ahead and put it back down. Then we're going to release the right leg. You're going to let both legs stretch out and then just give them a little back and forth movement for a moment. And then just pausing for a second. Notice the right side of your body and then notice the left side of your body and compare the two to each other. Do you notice any difference in the way the right side feels versus the left? Like, does the right leg feel a little bit longer or shorter or the same? Does the hip feel the same? Does it feel the same in your low back? Sometimes it's easier to perceive things that have happened because of a yoga pose when we've only done one side. So we're going to do the other side. So we're going to bring the feet back to the floor. Leave the right leg where it is. Bring your left leg in. Again, you can hug it or just hold it there. And then we're going to spin the foot in circles, trying to make the biggest possible circle with the ankle joint. And then go the opposite direction. Okay, we're going to point and flex the foot. Try to get as much movement as you can. 2 more. All right, so then again, we're going to take the ankle across. You might decide the middle of your shin is a slightly better place. And then pause for a moment and feel. So often we're a little bit asymmetrical. The right hip might be slightly different than the left. So always when we're doing practice, we want to take a moment to just become aware of whether that side is the same. So if you feel more stretch on this side, you might stay here. You can also allow yourself to consider bringing the legs in, even holding onto the one leg, and just see. Like, does it feel like I can relax and still hold this? You want to feel something, but we don't want it to be so intense that everything else tightens up, and we don't want it to be so loose that we don't feel anything. So somewhere where you're perceiving that you can feel, and this is tricky at first, so don't worry about it too much. Just whatever is doesn't cause trouble. So if you feel pain in your knee, for example, that's trouble. So back away from the that particular position. So if I were feeling pain in my knee, I would go back to here, even if this is a little softer sensation in the hip. And we're taking those nice deep breaths while we hang out here. Again, noticing, like, as you're breathing, do things change a little bit? Possibility exists that they don't, but we're just doing an inquiry to see. Also notice if you have a tendency to tighten up muscles around the face or hunch the shoulders when things are a little bit more intense. Take 2 more breaths here. And when your exhale finds you, you're going to let go and let the leg find its way down. Unwind the opposite leg. Stretch out both legs. Give yourself a little movement. And then just for a moment, relax both legs and see if any change occurred. Does it feel more even on both sides? Is there any asymmetry that you're perceiving? Is everything the same as it was before or the same now? Whatever you're feeling is legitimate, right? It's not, there's no right way to feel something. Each person's body is made just a little bit different. We're all mostly the same and a little bit unique with each of us. So the positioning of the bones, the positioning of the muscles can be slightly different. And so that creates a little bit of differences for each of us. Now, we're going to come from this position onto the belly. So to do that, I'm just going to scoot all the way over to one side and then roll onto the belly. But you can move around as you need. So we're going to place the hands on the floor with the palms spread out nice and wide, so the fingers have a little bit of separation. And I'm placing my hand up high enough that it's a little bit higher than the line of my shoulder. So we're going to press the legs into the floor and try to make the legs a couple of inches longer. There's a tendency for the legs to want to lift here, so we're really going to push them down. Then you're going to plant your hands and try to lift yourself off the floor just using your back muscles. Most of us will try to push with the arms. See if you can remove your hands and hold that shape. Come on back down. So this is called Cobra. And there are various variations of Cobra, but the intention of the pose is always to strengthen the back. So we're going to use it that way. So the hands are a little further back now. We're going to press the palms into the floor, press the legs down. Use your back muscles to lift yourself up. Be mindful of too much of your neck. And then come on back down. Slide your hands back a little bit. Pull yourself up. Now, this is where we can really start to feel why it's called Cobra. So we're going to draw the collarbones wider apart so that it feels like that kind of stretching open at the shoulder, like the hood of the little cobra. Right? Cobras are unique snakes in that way. Slide your hands back one more time. They may not totally touch the ground. That's okay. Draw the collarbones wide, push the legs down. And then come on back down. You're going to make a little one hand over the other position for your forehead to land on, and then rock your legs back and forth. So we're going to come up to all fours. Plant the hands. Now, your hand can go in a position where it feels like your wrist is right under the shoulder, But for some of us, that's quite extreme. So you can also move the hands a little further forward so that the wrist has a little bit less force on it. We're going to take the navel and kind of drop it toward the floor, let the low back kind of arch. You can pull a little bit back through your shoulder blades to broaden the chest and let your head kind of find a neutral position, a normal, what feels good. Then we're going to curl the tailbone under, let the back round, almost like a cat on Halloween. You're going to push the floor away a little bit and feel the shoulders get a little bit rounder. So going back, collarbones are going to broaden, and then shoulders. Okay. So we're moving the spine through these two positions. Usually this is referred to as cat-cow or cat tilt and tuck. You can come up with whatever name you like, but it is a nice movement of the spine. One more time. All right, we're going to bring the right foot forward. So we're going to stay on the left knee and the right foot is going to come to the ground. And then we're going to feel this hip flexor one more time. Now, you can leave your fingertips down on the floor if you're feeling a little wobbly. I'm going to put one hand on my thigh and one hand on my hip. Sometimes this back knee is a little tricky, so you are welcome to fold your mat or put a little blanket underneath your knee if you don't have anything. I'll show you an option in a moment. So we're going to start with the hip as close as we can feel it to being right over the knee. And then we're going to move the foot here a little forward. Okay, so we've got a good wide base. Then we're going to shift the hips forward in space until we feel this stretch here in the front, or we feel something else that stops us. The knee over the ankle or somewhere near there might be a good stopping point. Coming back, so this is where the knee can get a little tricky. So you can also try tucking your toes under, and sometimes that helps me. So pressing the hip forward, bringing yourself back. Okay, so we're trying to feel the point where we first begin feeling the stretch here on the front of the hip, and for me it's right there. Okay, so we're going to stop right there where you feel the stretch, and you might be a little different spot, don't worry about that. And notice how this might be slightly wobbly. So this is a low lunge. Sometimes it's called Anjane Asana. It's a fun name. We're going to take one more breath. All right, so now we're going to shift the weight back. So the hip is going to come back. And then this leg we're going to let get almost straight and then fold toward it. This is where having a like a piece of furniture, table or something like that can be useful. You can lift your toes up if you like. Can you feel how this now stretches the back of your thigh on that side? So those are the hamstrings. Now we're going to shift to do the other side. So we're going to put both hands on the inside, lean a little bit to that side, bring the other leg back. You can take that leg and reach it back and give it a little movement. Now, bringing that leg down, we're going to take the opposite leg forward. Again, we're going to start with hip right over the knee. Wiggle this foot a little bit forward so it's straighter leg. Then we're going to lean into it with the hip, try to find the beginning of that stretch, and come back to that neutral position. Okay? If you need to widen your base or hold on, you can do that. Lean forward. Feel where you feel that stretch in your hip. Come on back. We're going to do that one more time. So we're leaning into it. We're going to go just to the point where we feel the stretch and then pause right there. Notice if your hips want to twist, can you keep them pointing mostly forward? Can you keep your face relaxed and breathe deep here? Okay, we're going to take one more breath. And then we're going to ease the hips back over that neutral position, straighten out this front leg. Again, you can lift the toes or leave the toes down, and then see if you can fold towards this leg. And again, as soon as we feel something on the back of the thigh, we're there. Take one more big breath, yogis. Now we're going to put both hands on the inside. We're going to take this leg back. We can give it a little shake. We're going to get ourselves onto our feet, and we're going to do something similar standing up. So tucking the toes under, you can push with your hands, lift your hips, and then walk your hands and feet together. We're going to come up so that the back feels flat. And then bend your knees quite a lot and let yourself fold all the way over your legs. And then see if your head and your neck will let you rinse it out a little by just let it drape. We're going to come back to that halfway point and then all the way up to standing. Give yourself a big stretch when you get here. Oh, hey, buddy. Okay. So adjust any concerns that you may have regarding wardrobe malfunctions. Get your hair aligned so that it's not in your face. And then we're going to stand in mountain pose. So we're going to point the toes forward. Usually when I stand, my toes point out a little bit. So we're going to intentionally point the feet forward. And then as you pause for just a moment, soften through your knees just a bit and feel how that affects you. So if you're used to your toes pointing out or in, pointing them forward might feel a little strange in the hips. If you're accustomed to pointing your toes forward, it might feel quite normal. We're going to let the knees stay a little bit soft. We're going to let the shoulders relax down. So lift them up for a second and then let them relax. Try to hold that. And then draw just a little bit your rib cage and your hip together. So there's a little bit of abdominal support. Not too much, just enough. And then imagine, can you feel your head mostly balanced over top of the bowl of the pelvis? And then let yourself stretch up a little bit taller. That's our mountain pose. So I'm going to turn my mountain back about 90 degrees here. And we're going to take our left foot, pick it up and step it back. Now, we're going to try to achieve that lunge again, but this time a high lunge. So I'm balanced on my toes. This knee is in the air. This knee is going to stay over the ankle or a little bit behind it. Allowing this knee to move forward when this leg is lifted can be problematic for your knee joint. So you want to be mindful of that, okay? Again, we're going to try to keep the pelvis mostly pointing forward. We'll see how it goes. We're going to pause here. Okay, so you can even put your hands on your hips to kind of help get that sense of the hips pointing forward and any wobbling that might occur. We're going to take one more breath here. All right, so then we're going to bring this leg forward enough that we can straighten out both legs. You might have to turn the toes on this foot out a little bit. And then we're going to fold forward as far as it lets us, which might not be more than halfway. So we'll fold until you feel something in your hamstrings. We're going to take 2 more breaths. It might feel a little wobbly. Be prepared to catch yourself. All right, bend your front knee. Woo, this is where it gets wobbly. We're going to step this front foot forward, or back foot forward, and we're going to find that mountain pose again. And now that you're here in this mountain pose, do you feel any difference between your left leg and your right leg? There may not be a difference. Sometimes there is. So we're going to take the right foot and step it back. See if we can find that high lunge again, hips pointing forward. Keeping this knee balanced. And then breathe. Can you feel the stretch in the front of your hip here? It might be the same or even a little bit different than the one when we were on the floor. Last breath. All right, so we're gonna straighten out both legs. I might have to bring this foot a little closer and even turn it a notch out. Both feet on the ground, you're gonna fold forward towards this front leg. Be careful about pushing against your knee. I like to put my hands on my thigh bone or on my shin or on my ankle. Thigh is my favorite. But you wanna be mindful about pressing onto the knee. So can you feel the tension there in your hamstrings? All right, we're gonna take ourselves back to our mountain pose. We're gonna come up, step this back foot up to meet the front foot. And one more time, we'll pause in this mountain pose. And see if you notice any difference in the way that it feels. So we're gonna take the arms up, give it a big stretch. Exhale, fold yourself, bend your knees. Fold all the way forward, come up halfway. Beautiful. We're gonna put the hands on the floor and step back. This is gonna become downward facing dog. So hands nice and firm like we had with the cobra. Step your feet back until it feels like you're a V. Now you might notice quite a lot of pressure, so when you're feeling like it's too much, just put your knees down on the ground. If you can, let your shoulders kind of hug each other. And then press through your heels. See what happens if you bend one knee or the other or both. Maybe both knees bent is better. Take a nice deep breath. And then we're gonna bring the knees to the ground. You're gonna come to a seated position. Now sitting cross-legged on the floor seems like something that's simple, but it's not always simple. Sometimes the knees are up really high. So you can, if you have a folded blanket or a pillow, you can sit up on the top of that. Otherwise, you're gonna do your best. Your legs can be outstretched. You can have the feet together. You can have one ankle crossed over the other. So just find a sitting position that feels mostly stable. So we're gonna sit up as tall as possible. See if you can get your head mostly over the bowl of your pelvis. We're gonna twist towards our left. So you're just gonna turn your whole torso that way. Drop your hands wherever they land. So the hand in the back is there to help you get a little taller, and the hand in the front is there to help hold you. So we're gonna turn the head to look over the back. Inhale, bring the head to look over the front shoulder. Okay. Exhale, turn to look over the back. Inhale to look over the front. Exhale, look over the back. Inhale to the front. Now we're going to pause right there and let the rest of the body follow the head. And then pause there for a moment and feel. Does it still feel like you're twisting a little bit towards your left? Sometimes it does. We're going to release this left leg out straight. And then you're going to turn just a little bit to your right. Now, the left arm might do a variety of things. You might grab your shin. Some people can reach their toe. I like to put my hand on the floor. So you're going to choose a position for your arm. We're going to bend sideways over this leg, and then you're going to sweep your right arm straight up, turn the palm a little bit towards the toes, and then stretch that arm out and over. If this causes any sort of discomfort around your neck or your shoulder, bring the arm back to being straight up. See if you can reach out just a little bit from your lowest point in the shoulder. Feel that stretch through the side of your waist. Can you feel how it might be more challenging to breathe deeply? We're going to come all the way up, bring this leg back. Now this gets a little trickier because we're going to try to sit cross-legged with the other leg in front or on top. So most of us have a habit of sitting in one way, and our bodies develop that over time. So when we change the habit, it can be a little bit tricky. So again, if there's any discomfort in your knees or even in your hip joints, you can go back to the first, whatever your normal sitting position is. Sit up nice and tall, try to balance your head right over your pelvis, and then we're gonna rotate over to the right. And again, the left hand is gonna hold on somewhere to help hold you there. Your right hand is gonna push into the floor to remind you to stay tall. And then you're gonna look over the back shoulder. Inhale, turn your head toward the front shoulder. Exhale toward the back shoulder. Just keep that movement going nice and gentle. Breathe as deep as you can. You can keep your eyes closed or open. One more time. Then you're going to let your head turn over the front shoulder, and we're going to follow it by letting the whole body come back around with it. Notice if you still feel that little bit of a twist. We're going to stretch out the right leg. We're going to take a nice deep breath. And then we're going to turn just a little bit to the left so that we can do the side bend over the side. So again, you can put your hand on your shin. You can hold onto your big toe. You can put your hand on the floor. We're going to turn the torso a little bit sideways, bend sideways, reach this arm straight up, turn the palm towards your toes, and then stretch the arm over your ear. Again, if there's any tension that develops right here in the neck, come on back to that arm being straight up. And reach up through the arm. This can be a challenging pose. Just notice how it stretches quite a lot of sensitive tissue there, sensitive muscles in our low back and side waist. Two more breaths. Now you're going to bring that arm back. We're going to come all the way up. Nice big breath. We're going to take both legs out stretched and then give them a little bit of movement. So yogis, we're going to do one more pose. And it's going to be the most challenging pose, but potentially the most important. It's called Shavasana. So we sort of did it at the beginning, except we paid attention to the breath. So this time we're going to just lie down on our back. We're going to put our legs in whatever position is comfortable. Again, you can add a little pillow for your head if you like. And that's it. We're going to just pause. So rolling down onto your back. We'll start with just giving yourself a little back and forth. And then again, you're going to find that position with your legs. So is it better for your legs to be feet resting on the floor? Or is it better for your legs to be all the way outstretched? Right? And it really is just a matter of how it feels in your low back when you do that. And then let your arms just find the most relaxed place beside you. If it feels better, you can cover or put your hands on your ribs. Take a moment to settle into place. And then we're just going to let the body be. Now the pose is called corpse pose. That's how quiet and relaxed we want to get. You may find yourself thinking about all the stuff you have to do, or making little lists in your head, or whatever. Try to let yourself just let go of all of that for a few more minutes. This pose is all about our nervous system letting go. going to take just a moment and notice the breath again. And you're going to take a breath really deep as you can possibly inhale. Let it go with a big sigh. You may have to do it one more time just to see the effect. Notice if it helps you relax to sigh out. Give yourself a little wiggle of your fingers and toes, and then stretch them apart as big as you can, and then wiggle them again, and stretch them apart, and give the wrist and ankles a little bit of movement. Go the other direction. Now you're going to stretch your body from fingertips to toe tips, and then we're going to just kind of curve over to one side like a banana, and then curve over to the other side like a banana. And then bring your knees into your chest and give yourself one more time a little rock right on your low back. And then roll over to one side. You're going to push yourself up to sitting. Let your head be last. And so thank you for joining me for a yoga class, a little beginner's yoga class. We'll take a nice big breath. Let go with a big